So about a year ago or so, a very interesting discovery was made for Nintendo Wii fans: how to disable a filter that Nintendo themselves put on the Nintendo Wii hardware, which kind of makes the image quality, well, not as good. Disabling this filter gives you a much cleaner picture, especially on modern televisions, and people are thrilled with this. I think the results absolutely speak for themselves. The image does look substantially better. And while that's cool, I thought to myself, well, how come this hasn't happened with the N64? It's kind of hard to get your N64 looking good on an HD television unless you want to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars. If there was a way around that, that could be very helpful for a lot of consumers. The reason N64 games have so much blur is kind of a twofold thing. The N64 hardware itself has a horizontal blur that Nintendo put on it, but there's also anti-aliasing used on the software, which then makes the image even more blurry. But what if you could remove that anti-aliasing software patch and get a sharper image? That would be a pretty cool thing. Well, 4 years ago, this was actually done. There is a program that allows you to do that with N64 ROMs, remove the anti-aliasing from the software, and play them on original N64 hardware. And for whatever reason, this never really caught on. I've been playing around with this quite a bit recently, and I think the results absolutely are stunning and speak for themselves. So before we get into this experiment, let me explain what I am using here. I do have a Nintendo 64 modded system for HDMI out. Now, this is the lowest end modification. It's like $30 on AliExpress. It's the high-speed Dido our HDMI mod for the N64. You could commonly get these systems for about $200 or so. That's what I paid for mine. We're also going to need a way to play ROMs on our N64 hardware, meaning either you could go the hard way and create your own games themselves, or you could get something like an EverDrive or a flash drive cartridge. Now, all of this footage is being done on the exact same settings for my Nintendo 64, so there's no tinkering with image quality or anything like that. The N64 that I have does have some additional features, and we'll be making videos on all of this stuff: the N64 itself, the HDMI modification, the EverDrive, and cool things you could do with the EverDrive. But I just want to let you guys know this is all through the patching of the ROM itself, and these are the results. All right, so first we're going to need our application. This is available on GitHub. I will have a link to it in the description box down below. It's made by someone named Saturn U, and it's called the U64 AAP. So we're basically just going to download the zip file, and then we'll get a file that we need to extract, and inside of that folder will be a various things that we can take a look at, but we only really need to use one thing. So we're going to go ahead and drag and drop a ROM over here, and we're going to put this on the patch function. Drag it and drop it directly on patch, and then the magic will start to work with it. Then once that's done, you will see that the ROM has changed its name to patched on the actual ROM, which means that the software anti-aliasing has been removed. Then we're simply going to copy this ROM over to our EverDrive or EverDrive applicable system, and then we'll start to look at the results. So the way I want to do this is, first off, we're going to show you the actual ROM itself pre-patched, post-patch, and then a side-by-side comparison. Like I said, I do have an HDMI mod for my Nintendo 64, but it is a very cheap one. I'm not messing with any of the settings or anything like that for this, so it's really a one-to-one replication. Now, this is without any sort of anti-aliasing patch, and this is definitely one of the better-looking N64 games, but there is still some smearing. Stuff like text in the background, the trees and stuff like that. It definitely has a very soft image. Now, this is a sprite-based kart racer. They're not polygonal kart racing characters, but you could tell that once we put on this anti-aliasing patch, this looks a lot crisper and a lot cleaner. You can see that the textures, the signs, all are much clearer to read. The backgrounds themselves look a lot better, and I think even the sprite-based characters do have a better crispness to them than we've seen in the original footage. I'm going to put some side-by-side footage up now. On the left-hand side will be the original. On the right-hand side will be the anti-aliasing patch. And I want to know which you guys, which you think looks better. The next game we're going to check out is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and I'm definitely showing you this for a reason. The character selects screen, and this is a game that's definitely a lot blurrier than Mario Kart is. It's still definitely playable, you know, lots of nostalgia for me. I was a huge Muska fan and BAM fan. I had Muska boards, all sorts of stuff. You know, definitely Muska was very cool for skateboarding for me, but this is a very, very blurry game that I feel like would look a lot better with an anti-aliasing patch to remove that and get a cleaner image. And right off of the jump, you can tell this looks so much better. Look at the characters themselves and how much more defined they are. The text is a lot crisper as well. And then the game itself, once we get into the game, is also crisper as well. This game was definitely very shocking for me as far as how much better it looks with the anti-aliasing removed. Now, you do get things like dithering that becomes a little bit more prominent, so some games will look better than other games. I'm showing you an example of a multitude of games. We're going to go ahead and do the side-by-side here, and just, I mean, look at that. Look at the character select. It is so much better with the anti-aliasing patch off, and I just think it speaks for itself, really. Like, it's night and day as far as the difference is concerned. Hybrid Heaven is a game I've always wanted to get into, but this was one of the, I would say, blurriest, muddiest games on the system. And, you know, looking at this, like, it doesn't look good. Like, I don't really know how else to say it. It looks way too smeary, way too blurry, and I feel like there is a beautiful game underneath this. And this was yet another game that really surprised me with just the results you can get. So here's the vanilla version. You know, it's okay. It exists. Now look at this. Look at how clean this looks. Look at the depth that we are getting from this. Now, like I said, some games will have more dithering than other games, and, you know, it's going to vary from game to game, as we'll see coming up, you know, just how much of an impact it makes. And you might like the softer image, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, this looks like almost a completely different game. Like, it looks so much better. And I think in the side-by-side comparisons, you're really going to notice a stark contrast here between the anti-aliasing patch off on the right-hand side and the anti-aliasing stuff on the left-hand side. The next game is F-Zero, which is a gorgeous looking game to begin with. And this is a game that I feel like there's not really a huge impact by turning the anti-aliasing off on this game. Like I said, it's going to vary from game to game, and some games might actually look a smidge worse, because essentially what the anti-aliasing was doing was hiding things that they didn't want you to necessarily see. You could see here, this is the anti-aliasing off version of the game, and it looks very similar. So this was a tactic that developers and companies used to make their games look as good as possible on a CRT TV, not factoring in that, you know, HD televisions would end up being a thing. So I did notice that this game and Wipeout, not much of a difference as far as the visuals were concerned. You know, maybe a little bit crisper. Let me know in the comments section down below, though. Do you notice a difference between these two? Of course, the left side is anti-aliasing on. The right side is anti-aliasing off, patched ROM. And I feel like I've saved one of the best examples for last. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And, you know, this great game, but it's definitely, you know, on the smudgy side here. And I feel like we can get a little bit better here. And I was pleasantly surprised with the results of this game. You know, I think, you know, this, it looks like a video game. It looks okay-ish, I guess. But once we turn that anti-aliasing off, I feel like we get a much better look at the world, the characters, and everything just looks much sharper here. So the original image, you know, and then look at this. Like, I think this looks so much better. And you could decide in the side-by-side comparison, because really, it's down to personal preference, whether you like this or not. You could buy things like the HDMI modded N64s that have a, you know, that are more expensive, that have more features. But like doing this on a $200, literally, I bought this for $200. HDMI modded N64 instead of paying like $600 and still getting these kind of results just by patching the ROMs was more than worth it to me, man. So I think this is a really cool feature. You know, it'll work better with some games than others, but I'm interested if you guys are going to try this out. If you do have a cheaper HDMI modded N64, or trying it out on original hardware that's not modded, you know, you could do that too. Like, there's no limit to what you could do, and I think the results speak for themselves. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this, and as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel, and let me know if you want more N64 content, because it's coming either way, buddy. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.